First of all, the thing that grabs me is the smell of the earth and the moisture and the clay. It has a very specific kind of smell to it. It's a full mind and body experience.
In the beginning, people thought we were a bit nuts, you know, because here's these people that are building a house out of mud, literally mud. So I just changed the acronym, MUD, a modern utopian dwelling, and then it was okay, right? You know, there's judgment, so we had to challenge a lot of those, but we both thrived off of stirring the pot, right? We like to shake things up a little bit and see what happens.
We're not trying to just be sustainable, we're actually trying to make this a better place. So yeah, I think education always is a two-way street, you know, for you as a learner and as a teacher.
I'm an old hippie, so I've always loved nature. And I believe that this natural materials is a healthy way to interact with what you live with.
One woman described it as like living in a hug. And I think people can feel it, but they might not recognize it as such, because it's something they're not used to. What I think a lot of people feel when they step into a clubhouse, like they'll touch the walls. You don't do that with drywall. But with cob, they want to feel the walls, what they're made of. And for me, I think that's because of all the embodied energy. Like every cob project had hundreds of people that mixed the mud with their bare feet, put it on with their hands, and all of that energy is in the walls.
I learned how to do natural building from Pat Hannaberry, who helped build this house, who learned from Ianto Evans, Linda Smiley, Cobb Cottage Company out of Oregon, who kind of really started a real resurgence of natural building. They started natural building school, started teaching a ton of workshops, just really spreading natural building at a time when it was pushed aside by, you know, industrial building. As far as this style of cob goes, it's all one mass. It's all one cohesive unit. So there's no frame aside from the cob. That's holding up the roof, it's holding up the second floor, it's holding up the staircase, the decks, the porch, everything. It's considered Oregon cob because it's mostly the style that the Cobb Cottage Company kind of has refined and come up with. So usually 3 parts sand, 1 part clay, and then 1 to 2 parts straw, just depending on what you're doing with the mix. You mix all those materials together wet, pile them on the wall, sculpt the wall, trim it, make it whatever shape you want. When it dries out, it becomes incredibly strong. This house actually was a big project because Ianto and Linda were there, Pat was there, who's now done so much, Tracy, Elka Cole.
It was the first permitted cob house. It was in '99 in Canada. And we were all working and finishing on it together and plastering and talking about it, and that was when we got the idea of forming Cobworks.
It was one of those kind of moments. It was like that moment came all at the same time for all of us. It's like, wow. We decided, hey, we don't want to work against each other. Let's join together and create something that will benefit all 3 of us, and that's how we got started. Really, it was a collaboration.
We were together for about 5 years. In '09, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, so I've kind of taken a step back, but I'm doing more consulting. You know, I've built 26, 27 cob homes. I've probably built another 15 or 20 conventional homes, and I've never once signed a contract, and I've never had a firm deadline. It was going to take as long as it took.
It's a whole different mindset, and trying to put the conventional building mindset onto natural building is not helpful at all. Natural building, it's meant for you to have a very personal and intimate relationship with your home. I can remember many times standing with a new owner of land, and we're going over the siting, and we take a garden hose and just say, okay, here's your house. How do you want it to be? And then you build the home around what you do.
Now, when you're building naturally, what you're looking at is you're looking at having a safe home, because you want a safe home for yourself and your family, and you want it safe for anybody that comes in. But you also have a bit bigger lens. You want it safe for the ecology and everything else around you. You don't want to impact other people's backyards. And so when you understand that the building officials have the same goals and intents that you do, it's just that you have a wider lens, you actually have the same things in common.
This building we're in right now is my woodworking shop, and it's actually load-bearing. But I worked with an engineer that had helped with the house. He allowed the load-bearing walls for 2 reasons. One, because there's a 4-post arbor in the center here that holds up the skylight, and that in the building is not square, but circular. You know, it's got a full stone foundation with a bond beam underneath it, a footing, which was the only thing with the new earthquake codes that he made me do that I wasn't. I planned on doing a rubble trench. So I figured that's gonna be plenty, they're not gonna go anywhere. But he said, no, gotta have the bond beam now because of the earthquake new code.
My wife, Jo, and I went to Lasqueti and went to a cob workshop about 10 years ago. So the idea of going and learning a new skill by actually trying this out, well, it doesn't get better than that. For me, I'm never going to stop learning or wanting to learn. It's a great place to connect with the natural world. And for me, a long-term dream was to have my own outdoor center, education center, and we came up with the name Rolling Earth. It's a place to experiment and learn and try to improve the shape of the world. People can come see the cob building, they can come see organic farming, permaculture. Cob's amazing because it combines art and building. You know, your tools are your hands and your feet, and lots of group effort, you know, to get things into place. We traded the Mud Girls. They actually did the foundation and the post and beam, and they used our retreat center for their boot camp. So that process was very quick. Then there's all sorts of other things. It's like any building, the finishing often takes a lot longer than the initial frame of the building. To me, I feel comfortable because of how we built it. Our philosophy, ethics, integrity were all upheld in the building of this. I think it's a good life, trying to lead a sustainable life. It doesn't have to be hard. It can actually be a fun challenge.
I come from Mexico originally, and in Mexico we make brick houses that last a long time. One of the things about this house is, from the very beginning, the design parameters was that it would last more than 300 years. It's this idea that if it's a natural material, it's old style, that new materials are the only thing that really work. And that's absolutely not true. And we can make natural materials be as safe, and in many cases safer, than modern materials. I see the change so difficult because it's systemic. You have to change the system, because every time you tweak here or tweak there, you build this house, natural house, nice. Yeah, but this is one. And how many other unnatural houses are out there that in 20, 30 years are gonna be mold infested and has to be either burned down or rebuilt completely? I'm blessed, I cannot complain, but I see out there and I see what's happening, and it's so unfair for a great majority. That's not a system that works. We have a mess. We have a complete mess out there. The system doesn't work and we have to change it.
We really wanted to try and do something that had a low carbon footprint. One of our goals was to demonstrate ways where you could mitigate for climate change, basically present a cultural story and how you could do things different and yet still live the way people expect to live within our culture.
People started to get really curious, and then they started to realize that we're not crazy. We just got some other values that we're trying to integrate into our lifestyle, and we found out that a lot of other people have those same values, but they didn't quite know how to integrate those into their lives. But we started having open houses where community could drop in and whatever while we were building, and then they come and see our house when it's all done, and they realize that, you know what, this is really beautiful, right? This isn't crazy, this isn't nuts, this is a gorgeous place. Maybe I wouldn't want to do it for myself or whatever, but I like that aspect or this aspect, or look, they got solar panels and make all their own electricity, or, you know, in conventional houses they have dehumidifiers and stuff that take the moisture out of the living environment in order to maximize the potential of the walls not to have mold. Yes. But in an earthen home we can actually live in higher humidity, which is actually more ideal for human health. Yeah. So we don't get sick.
We don't have to have a mechanical system to control humidity in the house, as most houses do, because the clay in the walls has the ability to absorb and deabsorb humidity.
You know, as a good indication, we've got a computer over there on the wall which is hooked to sensors in all the walls. So we actually have been able to do a year-long research study on the house. And this is what we learned from the research that we did in the house with all the sensors, is that the house can never support mold growth around it or in the walls.
As an example, when we received an award called the Living Building Challenge, and we had 60 people in the house. We watched the walls absorb 17.8 liters of water in 4 hours from people breathing. After everybody left, 4 hours, you could see the walls give out 17.8 liters of water. And so the walls have the ability, the humidity inside the house stayed the same, but the walls had the ability to absorb and deabsorb the moisture.
And that's a powerful thing, to actually live in a home that didn't cost a whole bunch of money, that has a low carbon footprint, that is regenerative to the ecosystem it is in, and is be created by your own hands. Earth and architecture, it can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't need to be this hippie thing or whatever. It's a human thing. It's a real sense of home. We did not build this house for resale value. We built it because we wanted to create a place to live in that was nurturing to who we are as people. And so as many different ways as there are to be human, there is earth and architecture.
The simplicity of the approach is what draws people to it.
It embodies just everything that the forest is about.
It's the imperfection that you find the beauty.
To me, the natural materials, it just feels right.